Hello, folks, and welcome to the low and moderate income topic today. A topic that's moved to the forefront, in these challenging times. Today, I'm here, Kyle Haddock, director here at CLEAResult, and here and very proud to talk about this topic that's near and dear to me. Participating with me today and presenting today is also Carolyn King from National Grid. Carolyn, you want to say hello to everyone?
Good morning, Kyle. Hello to all who are attending this really dynamic presentation.
There we go. Thank you so much. So it's a little different today. We're working remotely, working from home. I'm sure all of us are in a different place today. But here's the reality: the average family doesn't think about energy usage until they realize they can't afford it. This period of time that we're dealing with COVID-19 is unique. 23.4 million families have lost income. A lot of families are in a position of unemployment, don't have extra cash at hand, and for the most part haven't really worried about utility bills at all until they're due, because they're putting a priority on their families, they're putting a priority on focused on things like shelter, putting food on a table, sustainable employment, looking for jobs, maybe a career development opportunity or a job change. There's lots of things going in people's lives. People are home more than they've ever been before, which drove up cooling costs during the summer. And they might be home a little bit more during the winter, which again will change dynamics, behavioral practices during the winter time, especially those customers who are structured in a way that they're really not surviving on cash on delivery type fuels. Low income customers stand to benefit the most from energy efficiency programs, as their energy burden is a higher percentage of their overall housing costs. And this is why low and moderate income programs, to me, are referred to as energy affordability initiatives. Okay? Working at CLEAResult provided me a unique opportunity to kind of share my experiences over the last 25, 30 years and share a little bit more about the trends that we see that are happening in the industry. Just a little bit of background on our services and how unique they are to us. For me, here at working at CLEAResult, working within a low-income customer group, it means more to me. Serving low-income customers is core to our industry. One of our guiding principles within our organization is that 10% of our portfolio is dedicated to reducing the energy burden of low-income families and low-income customers through low-income programs. The reality is our program depth and into communities and into the low and moderate income space is actually broader, because we've actually worked with our utility programs to enhance our partnerships or enhance our programs in a way that provide unique opportunities, for energy efficiency access that few other programs have in the past. We have a unique nationwide level of experience, from very comprehensive programs in the Northeast and very comprehensive programs in the Midwest. One of the great things that we take pride in is not only creating opportunities for energy savings in low and moderate income communities, but also employing, training, and providing sustainable jobs for people who get a chance to work right back into those communities. So, in addition to that, we have experienced teams within our organization that work on these programs ourselves. We have trade ally models where we develop the trades, the contractors, the networks to deliver services. Incrementally, we also have the ability to deliver a lot of these programs ourselves. One of the unique things by working at CLEAResult is our impact. One major impact here is our reduction in energy burden in people's lives. So through the course of our programs in 2019, we measure all of our impact, measure our impact in carbon impacts, measure our impact in regards to savings on customers' utility bills. In 2019 alone, we were able to reduce the energy burden, the energy bills of customers by $27 million. That's a significant impact, and that's something that we wish to grow and sustain progress on over the next year. So, real quick, why are we here? Kind of going back to things. So, Carolyn, you and I have worked together, on this presentation today. Definitely want to share experiences about things. We wanted to make sure today that we have an opportunity to set objectives of what we look to accomplish in this presentation. We want to share a little bit about how LMI, or low and moderate income programs, have moved to the forefront of families Obviously, our economic crisis is extremely unique and the high percentage of customers that are dealing with energy burdens. We also wanted to take the time to introduce the M in low and moderate income, and we'll go into more details today on that. Incrementally, we also want to share our trends that we see in the industry, things that we're working with our energy partners on throughout the country and in Canada, and incrementally share some experiences in the areas where we believe we could expand upon it, expand further the energy efficiency in low and moderate income markets. Okay. Carolyn, you want to share a little bit more about your experience in working in low and moderate income communities?
Yes, thank you, Kyle. I'd like to share with everyone that at National Grid, when I first came to the company, I began my career as a consumer advocate, and I worked with customers who had special needs in New York State, throughout the upstate New York territory, which is just about everywhere north of New York City. And I also worked with the team that worked down on Long Island and in the city itself of New York City, and worked with the other adjoining utilities and their consumer advocates. And one of the things that we found, Kyle, that was really resonated with everyone on this team was so many people out there felt that they may have a need, but they always felt that someone else in the community had a greater need. So they were hesitant to raise their hand. So that's where we find it's very challenging in identifying our populations, and more so with the moderate income customers. As you've noticed, as you brought forth, Kyle, what we're looking at is with these changes that we do have markers for people who are 60% of the state median income. But for those people who are 61% or above, but are still below the 100% mark, it's often very difficult to deliver services and identify where they are. So that's one of our challenges with the utility. And that map that you've placed on that slide, that really shows so much of this impact that we're seeing, that as people transition from one income bracket to another, that's where the challenge lies.
Yeah, the pandemic has really had not only a financial impact, but very much an emotional impact on families. Families shouldn't be reminded about their energy burden on a month-by-month basis. The more and more I look at this map, I think about how a year from now, this map might be a shade darker in just about all of the states across the country. So it's really important for us as advocates for low-income families, as program implementers, as program designers, and even policy folks, what can be done to drive, changes in energy, energy efficiency, but also providing an equitable access to energy efficiency programs. A cold fact is the reality is 25% of our households face an energy burden, face a very high energy burden. Amongst those, when we think about energy burden, it's the percentage of dollars that you put towards your utility bills as a percentage of your overall family's income. 25% of our families are 6% or greater in that metric. The rest of America is about 2 to 3%. Most market rate programs, focus in on customers that might be in that 1 to 2% category. So I know we're going at length about this, but it's really important to kind of emphasize why we're here, why this topic has come to the forefront. Share some experiences. Carolyn's going to share some experiences in her program that's in New York, as his experience of the greater national grid. And then as we go through the presentation, I'll share some trends, some practices, some design ideas that we see in programs. And most importantly, I want to stop and pause at any time during this presentation and make sure that we address how we could get ahead of it, how we could drive policy, how we could drive change, not only in the programs that are in front of our faces today, but also programs that 8 months, 6 months, a year, 18 months from now can make a lasting and meaningful impact in customers' lives. So we'll jump a little bit here, and Carolyn's going to share a little bit about the HEAT program in Long Island, which we're very active in and very proud to be a part of.
Thank you, Kyle. And I'd like to introduce you all to National Grid's Home Energy Affordability Team. And this is how we help with heat. And on the next slide that Kyle will share with all of you, have an opportunity to outline the area that we serve. And in this case, National Grid provides gas and electric service throughout the Northeast, customers in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, and in New York State. And in New York State, we have what we call our legacy companies. And in the upstate New York territory, it was the Niagara Mohawk Power Company. And down in the New York City and Long Island territory, as you can see from the map, we had the Brooklyn Union Gas Company. And that is the area in the map that you see that's shaded red. It's Staten Island, it's parts of Brooklyn and Queens. Now, the gold area that you're seeing is the legacy territory for Keyspan Gas East Corporation. And just to make the distinction for all of you who are participating in our webinar today, National Grid is the natural gas provider for these areas. You're not the electric service utility. We do provide a lot of services and referrals back and forth in partnership with the electric utility providers, Con Edison, and with the Long Island Power Authority, which is administered by PSEG Long Island. So just a quick snapshot, we have over 4,000 employees in these two service territories. We have over 1.8 million natural gas customers. That's residential, and that's also our commercial and industrial customers. We have over 12,000 miles of existing natural gas pipeline, and we've installed over 113 miles of new gas lines in those service territories. So that's just to give you an idea of the size of the area and the number of customers we serve for natural gas. Thank you, Kyle.
No, that's great. And most importantly, the density of customers and the extreme diversity of that territory. And if folks know the area, to the lower left of that orange area is Gotham City, Manhattan, and Brooklyn and Queens. So a unique territory in our country.
It is, and it presents its own challenges in delivering these services. So just to give you all an idea of the flavor of the Home Energy Affordability Team, the goal of the program is to achieve energy savings and reduce bill impacts through education, implementation of energy efficient measures, and to increase the health and safety and the resiliency of these homes and our income eligible customers that reside there. The program is a component of our company's joint proposal, which was filed in 2016 with our regulators, the New York State Public Service Commission, and it was part of the KEDNY and KEDLI service territories. Now, please remember that the HEAT program only provides service within the KEDLI service territory, which is Nassau County, very densely populated, Suffolk County, which is a mix. People are surprised, but agriculture is a really big business on Long Island. And we also service the area of Far Rockaway, Queens. So we have three very distinct areas, all within one geographic service territory. And when we received approval to launch the program, we started in 2017. And the program is unique in its design, and that unlike most traditional weatherization programs with an income eligibility component, we approach this with a very agile tactic. It's not step one, step two, step three. We do go with a 4-tiered level of delivery. We offer marketing and outreach. We do home energy assessments. We do installation for prescriptive measures. That would be attic insulation, pipe wrap, clean and tune. And then we do custom measures. And on the next slide, we can get into this a little bit more. Thank you, Kyle. And as you can see, the tier one in our marketing and outreach, what we do is we look for customers who have been identified in our customer service system as being income eligible by a marker for a program that National Grid implements called the Energy Affordability Program. It is a bill credit that is applied on a monthly basis to customers who qualify. And the qualification is based upon the HEAP allocation to the account. So when National Grid receives a HEAP allocation on behalf of a qualifying customer from the Department of Social Services HEAP office in Suffolk and Nassau County, or in Queens, which is the Far Rockaway area, their account receives a notation that the credit has been applied, the customer is enrolled in Energy Affordability Program. And what this does is it allows National Grid to query its customer system and to pull the data points for all of those customers and then market to them directly. So these customers receive direct tailored marketing from National Grid and from our partners at ClearResult and our supporting business partners that bring awareness to the program. And this is unique in that it allows customers to opt in. Customers can raise their hand and self-refer. We also have a tremendous partnership with the weatherization agencies in these counties, with the Department of Social Services, and we're also very fortunate in that community service organizations such as the United Way of Long Island are very active in referring their clients and their program participants to the HEAT program. So our marketing and outreach in Tier 1 is out there to socialize the message. And when customers choose to opt in, that's where we get them into the Tier 2. Tier 2 is that home energy assessment. It's a comprehensive assessment that with the pandemic, we've been able to pivot and offer our customers not just the in-home, but they have the option to go with a virtual assessment. And with our partners at ClearResult, we've worked to develop a platform that allows these customers to safely participate in that home energy assessment. It's a virtual walkthrough with the home. But our on-site is also a white glove service. It's tremendous in that we have the energy auditors go directly to that customer's home at a scheduled time and do a walkthrough through the home. These are BPI, Building Performance Institute certified analysts that will go through the home, do energy education with the customers, make them aware of programs, not just the programs that National Grid offers, but also through our partners at PSEG Long Island. They have a residential energy assistance program, REAP, which will address the electric use needs for these low-income customers. And we manage on the gas side. So our auditors work very closely with these other programs to get a comprehensive view of this home, to work with the homeowners so that they understand the work that is being done will help reduce their energy burden. So that home energy assessment will take a look at all of the home systems, but also has a health and safety component, which is very critical in the next 2 tiers of delivery. And this is what allows us to be agile. We don't ask our customers to proceed step by step by step. If our home energy auditor finds a health and safety issue that needs mitigation, for example, we look at appliances, gas appliances, and especially stoves. Anything in that home that's a combustion appliance, if it needs a clean and tune before we can do air and sealing, we consider that a custom measure. If the stove needs to be replaced, even though there are no energy benefits derived from that, well, we'll replace that stove because that stove has a big impact on the performance of the home. And that will allow us to go back to the prescriptive measure tier, Tier 3, and do installations for air sealing, for installation of attic insulation, rim joist sealing. So we're able to go back and forth between these tiers and adapt the delivery of these services to the needs of these customers. And as Kyle pointed out, it's not just an energy burden. There's so many other things that go on in a customer's life. Whether you're a marketplace, moderate, or income qualified customer, there's so many other things that come before their energy needs. And we try to be sensitive to that, and we've adapted the program's delivery mechanism to that. So thank you, Kyle. These are the tiers that we've developed that deliver these savings. And just to note to everyone, we have over 10,800 coded accounts. We market to these customers directly. On the average, we provide services to up to 400 of these customers who have come forward. So since 2017, it's great to know that we've helped that many customers, over 400 a year. And on the next slide, I can talk to you, and Kyle and I can discuss some of these things that are identifiers for these customers. And Kyle and I have had extensive discussion on this as we prep this slide. And I'm sure for all of you out there reading through this, you all understand too that when we talk about defining income level, we're talking about people's homes and their families and how this impacts upon them. And Kyle, if you wouldn't mind taking this and going through some of this with the federal poverty level, state median income.
I think that's great. Thanks for giving us an introduction to your program. It's good for folks to hear about the agility of program designs. When you hear tiers, I hear phases of a program. And a unique thing about the New York policy environment is When you develop tiers, it gives you the flexibility, the agility to go back to regulators and adjust the individual tier without adjusting the entire portfolio of the program. So it allows you to go in and just touch one tier versus a third tier versus a fourth tier versus going in there and saying, hey, I need a whole redesign of the program. So that's just a piece of regulatory guidance that I think is appropriate for folks to hear in other parts of the country. Other things are about the realities of low income. How do we define low income? Most folks are familiar with the federal poverty levels. Federal poverty levels exist, in the utility space when you touch federal money. So if there is a federal component to to your effort, if there is a regulatory effort where, or a federal effort to provide LIHEAP funds or weatherization type funds, through sub-grantee DOE networks, they have very unique criteria for their programs. Okay, the one thing that a lot of utilities fall into the trap of is falling into the reality of, hey, I have to use the federal poverty levels all the time. It's not necessarily the case. It's appropriate for utility companies to take more of a strategic strategy for their local market, their unique market. It's appropriate for you to take the state median income as a tiered threshold for identifying and qualifying customers. Incrementally, in areas where you're very close to a metropolis, when I think about Long Island, when I think about Cincinnati with Lexington right over the river, or if I think about the greater Boston area, there's an incremental cost of living near a metropolis that there isn't in other parts of the state. So it is appropriate for utilities to also take a tact of using an area median income, for determining qualifications for low income and moderate income. So this slide was kind of put together to give you a sense of how to accurately portray what customers you want to serve. If you're looking to serve the extreme low customers, there's a tier for that. If you're looking to serve all the customers in a greater community, we're really leaning, utilities towards the idea of not just having a low income program, but also covering the moderate income families. The reality is those customers live near each other. They're each other's neighbors. They're going to church together. Their kids are going to school together, and there's lots of different examples from other industries that are adjusting to the pandemic. For example, because of the position of unemployment, I'll use an example from the from the free and reduced lunch programs. Right now in many markets throughout the country, in surprising markets for many folks, that the burden of going through the process of mechanically verifying income qualification, landlord consents, and those kind of activities, unfortunately, is relatively new for customers. The reality is today, we're taking a little bit more of a strategy to reduce that stigma by doing a few things. One is taking into account the moderate income customers and having incentives, and also taking into the idea of using census tract data to differentiate, because there's a super fine line between those customers that are low income and those customers that are moderate income with the pandemic lurking. So we're going to jump through an example here, sharing a little bit. Oh, there's my note to remind everybody about where the moderate income tier lies. And we're going to jump into a little bit of heat mapping for Long Island, and always let the person who knows that territory more, talk about their own territory. So Carolyn, do you want to jump into a little bit of how you've used, data to help design programs in your area?
Thank you, Kyle. This map that you see before you was developed by National Grid within our data analytics team, using those coded accounts that I spoke of earlier, and then applying that to census data. And the map on the left that you see, that is the Kedley low income, the actual accounts coded within those areas. And you can see there's some real hot spots. And as Kyle noted too, it's very telling when you look at the distribution of where these are closer to a metropolitan area. Those are the people that we know those households receive heat, their accounts were coded. But as Kyle said, it's not so much of a geographic boundary. It's an area. And when we look at the area in the map on the right, what we did is our data analytics team put in another overlay. They added census data for accounts that may not have been coded for heat, but were in areas or census tracts that showed that there was a heavy concentration of moderate income customers. And you can see how that expands greatly. the colors in the map and the areas in which we are trying to target to assist these customers. It's easy enough to find somebody who's raised their hand and said, yes, this is the benefit that I've received, I'd like some more help. But how do you find and how do you reach those people who are next door that haven't received that kind of benefit? And how do you design programs that would reach those people? So it was very interesting when National Grid developed this, and we heard from NREL, US DOE Department, National Research and Energy Laboratory, and they had put out a call for utilities and other stakeholders to participate in the development of this new exciting tool that they have, the LEAD tool. And as Kyle will show you on this next slide that we're going to show, targeting energy burden. It's not just about where these people live. It's about what they're paying, where they live. And one of the things that Kyle and I had discussed, like we said, in the Long Island service territory, which is very unique in itself, and like a lot of other large metropolitan areas, you'll find customers living in homes where there's a median price point of $575,000, $400,000. You go into these communities, and when you look at the state median income and how it applies to where these people live versus what their cost of living is, the area median income is a much more closer marker to what they're paying to live where they live. So one of the things too, Kyle and I have been talking about is with this low-income energy affordability tool that is free for the public to use, which we encourage social service agencies. If you're a contractor and you're working with green-collar jobs, weatherization agencies, this tool offers so many multiple data points to do comparisons. And when we were testing it, one of the first things we did is we said, let's see how those heat maps show up against what we have for energy burden. We know where these customers are, but we want to see what they're paying for their energy. And as Colin and I were saying, when we ran the model through LEAD, we got this really great, very detailed map that shows us some of these neighborhoods where there is a concentration of our customers who receive that kind of benefit through the HEAT program or other income eligible programs, but also the degree of their energy burden. And I think the statistics that Kyle supplied for us on the right of the map, where we look at the energy burden in New York State is 3% of income. But when you start looking at some of these areas within Long Island, and you see the difference between customers that are considered low income to moderate income to market rate, one of the things Kyle and I were saying is that there are people, so many people now who are on a razor's edge of going from moderate income into low income. They need this assistance just as much as people in that other bucket. So that's why we try and be agile. That's why we try and look at all these impacts, not just somebody's economic situation, but the energy burden of the area around them. And when you look at low income, 5%, moderate income, 4% of their income, market rates 2%. That 1% makes a really big difference. And that's why I appreciate that we're able to have this dialogue today.
No, I appreciate that, Carolyn. This is real data and real programs at real time. Just about every utility in the country, not only to take their, universal service funds or LIHEAP customers, those that are already qualifying for social service initiatives, focused on heat, they could also take the customers and overlay zip code track information from, those that are falling behind in arrearage, those that are on the edge of a moratorium period pending. Incrementally, when you work with states like we're doing here in New Jersey, you're actually able to then take unemployment registrations, data and actually overlay that on that. So you got all these different layers that you could, help you target your programs. The reality is your low income customers are next to your moderate income customers. Your moderate income customers are next to your market rate customers. So if you have currently right now a low income program and you have currently right now a market rate program, the reality is you might be missing, almost a third of your market and creating unique barriers to energy efficiency that weren't intended. So it's really important for us to make these transitions, from inefficient homes to unhealthy homes to efficient homes as easy as possible. And one of the things that we really focus on here at CLEAResult and work with our utility partners is working on the simplicity, working on simple things like a single point of contact for enrollment in programs. Seems like very elementary, but many customers attend and go to like a LIHEAP agency to get annual heating assistance funds. But in the meantime, don't sign up for the utility program in the same effort. We're pushing more and more for relationships with community-based organizations, so that when they raise their hand and they kind of are shy about that stigma, shy about coming forth and asking for support, it's a very unique time. You have to really take a 211, 411 type of approach to things if you're not taking the 911 approach to it. Take the time, develop dual applications, modify standards so that if someone's eligible for one program at a social service level, just their affidavit or just a documentation that they're participating in another program should qualify automatically for your participation. So we see programs at the 200% federal poverty level, some programs that adjust to 250, and a lot of utilities now are raising that bar up to 400, so that those customers who apply and they're 251% aren't just turned away. You actually have a program offering because they took the time to raise their hand. You should be able to serve them in some capacity or another. Carolyn also brought up the reality of having virtual tools. You could have lighter touch energy assessments. You could have a virtual assessment with a drop kit. You could have a concierge kind of clipboard, quick home energy checkup kind of visit. And then we also have tiers where you can be extremely super comprehensive and go for every dollar of energy savings potential in that house. The reality is you want to have coordination with other multiple, funding sources. So if you have a scenario where there's an electric company, overlapping your gas company, what can you do to work with them, to partner with them in order to provide services for those customers? Incrementally, it's really important for you to engage all stakeholders that are in the community. You may find one faith-based group is more active than another, but at the same time, there might be a community effort from the mayor's office, the health department, the local freeholder's office, the local congressman, the state senator, et cetera, et cetera. There's so many different ways that you can, integrate the community in your marketing efforts. And many of them actually will be glad to do it and collaborate with you on the design and best practices to get out there. Most importantly for me is providing an equitable access to energy efficiency. And really important to that overall process is, making the income verification process simple. This market is shy of real tools, to help people, come forward easily, apply, provide the necessary documentation, so it's really important for us to ease the access for customers to be provided a level of technology that can be put in the hands of utilities, can be put in the hands of community-based organizations for people to access these programs. So long gone are the ideas of mail something out to a customer, hope they open it up, hope they fill out a piece of paper to reply to it. We need to be more electronic and more immediate to that. Open up the email distribution, as more customers have smartphones than they do have home phones right now, of course, right? So open your ideas up to, to Google Analytics and other strategies and other tactics to get out there. We also need to reduce the documentation headaches. It's really important today that customers are home. They're not going to show up to an office to hand something in. They're not going to share the very sensitive information via fax machine if anybody even has one. Incrementally, they're also not going to take a picture of it, not knowing who's on the other side of that picture. So it's really important that we have really strong validation processes in play, utilizing the data that's available from the utilities, utilizing census tract data, and avoiding, capturing excessive levels of PII from customers, that creates that data to be vulnerable. Unique to this industry also is the reality that, there are systematic approaches right now where you could actually, dial into IRS's 4506 process, similar to the way people apply for financial aid for students, like the FAFSA process. And utilizing those systems and integrating those is not cheap, unfortunately, but it's a real necessity to get these programs going in certain parts of the country. Incrementally, all data tracking, all systems, all processes need to be extremely secure. There's sensitive PII information in there. It has to be encrypted. They need to maximize the fields, and the security devices such as SOC 2, Type 2 compliance, enterprise risk government processes, and employee trainings and handling, very sensitive information. if you're going to be involved in an income qualified program, dealing with income verification steps, it needs to be safe and secure, efficient, and effective as quick as possible. Customers don't want to find out they're put on the waiting list. You want to be able to get them services as quickly as you can so you can make a big impact in their lives. Incrementally, I wanted to share a couple other trends as it relates to leveraging funding. There's all kinds of funding that's out there today. We talked before about Department of Energy sub-grantee weatherization type fundings. We also have fundings that could come from another joint electric or a gas company. Incrementally, in certain parts of the country, we have regional greenhouse gas initiatives that sometimes states could be a part of. And if they're part of those greenhouse gas proceeds, they can actually funnel those projects, funnel that money down into the communities, down into the energy efficiency initiatives. It's really important if there's a home performance program or a market rate incentive program. It's really important for you to think about how you can enhance incentives in those programs, to gain access more to energy efficiency for those that have moderate income. In addition to that, if there are partners in the community that are already providing services, engage them. And I think it was great, Carolyn, that you brought up the United Way in Long Island. The United Way in Long Island, believe it or not, is one of the largest weatherization providers probably in the country. Okay, people wouldn't think about that. So in our backyard, we partner with Habitat for Humanity on very simple things like if someone has a leaky roof and they can't afford to repair their roof, guess what? We can't air seal, we can't insulate. We might have a mold or moisture issue in that house if that customer's roof continues to leak. We actually partner with Habitat for Humanity to inspect homes along with us, alongside of us, and actually partner and actually take care of roof issues, moisture issues, bulk water issues, foundation issues, things that typically, force the customer to be deferred in a program. Now we're actually solving those problems. So any other examples, Carolyn, in your market on leveraging funding that, that I didn't steal your thunder on?
No, absolutely, Kyle. I'm a firm believer in leaving no stone unturned. And when I did do home visits with some of our customers or vulnerable populations, and I would get customers that would say to me, well, I just don't even want to look at my bill. It comes every month. I don't want to think about it. I have no money to pay it. I've got to get the yard taken care of. The gutters are falling down. So many other things in their home. And I find it was so helpful, Kyle, to sit down with them and say to them, you do have resources, you have connections beyond the usual fill out an application, pray somebody calls you back and says, okay, you qualify. I had a customer out in Western New York who was facing that sort of dilemma where she had to have work done on the home before we could even go in and do work through our program. And one of the things that resonated with her, she was out on disability. And she said, well, I'd been a nurse and I got injured at work and I've just become away from me and I can't even deal with this program right now. And I said, well, let's start with the little things. You were a nurse. Were you in a sorority or part of an alumni association? And you could see her eyes lit up. And she said, wait a minute. We did have an emergency fund. And she got in touch with them. Her son said to her, Mom, my Boy Scout troop's looking for work. They came, they fixed the gutters. One of the fathers in the troop came out, set the gutters up. So as these things were being taken care of, she could shift her focus onto the utility service. And that's when we started saying, there's other grants. National Grid has a program that we administer on Long Island through Berkshire and throughout all of our service territories, that it's a one-time $200 emergency grant for the season. Utilities do offer these kinds of things, and it's an employee-based giving program. She was able to get in touch with the United Way out in Western New York. They said, we have a one-time grant program. So there's all these things, Kyle, that often people are so used to just filling out an application and hoping that somebody gets back to them. But when you give them the tools to move forward and to do some of this work on their own, it's amazing where they go and where they can take off. And there are so many other agencies and social service groups out there that people don't think of. We've had referrals come into the HEAT program from legal services. Customers who had come into them with a matter totally unrelated to their utility service, but the attorney that was working with them said, and by the way, did you know that there's this program? It's amazing where referrals will come from, and it's amazing where you can find resources. So leveraging non-utility funding is really key. And it's not just funding, but it's services as well.
Great, thank you, Carolyn. So I think we're pressed up against time here, so I wanted to kind of jump here. We'll definitely share the slides. We'll definitely share the experiences. At the conclusion of this event, and definitely want to leave time for folks to ping us via the chat boards and other question and answer pieces. So I'm going to skip one or two slides here and kind of jump to one key theme here is the collaboration of programs. To me, just about every program could be a low and moderate income program. So think about how you could have an impact in the design of all your programs. If you have, a high volume program, residential program, multifamily program, even small business direct install kind of initiatives, it's really important to consider about how we, reach customers in those communities. I'll be glad to work with you and enhance your programs to make them, more impactful and reduce the barriers for energy efficiency. I want to close with one thought here about the realities of community impacts. Really near and dear to us here at CLEAResult and within the programs that we work with is having a real impact on communities. Right now, to me, this means more. The sustainability of energy efficiency programs can be achieved by actually having more of an impact in the workforce that's out there. We've got some great initiatives right now where we're developing resilient communities by developing workforce development initiatives. I've taken times recently with the Department of Labor in New Jersey to develop job descriptions so that when people go looking for jobs, unemployed folks are looking for jobs, they have an opportunity to see energy efficiency jobs, technician jobs, air sealing jobs, energy engineers, solar installers, et cetera, et cetera. Those jobs are out there now on the labor forums, so that when people go to apply for a job, they have an understanding it connects to an energy efficiency programs. Incrementally, we're creating unique opportunities for trade allies, and trade allies not just amongst the existing heating, cooling plumbers of the world, but also creating opportunities for minorities, women, veterans, communities of color, the LGBTQ plus communities, and especially in targeted cities where the census tract really kind of resonates with folks. So one last thing that I wanted to share and kind of close things up a little bit, and I know we're on the edge of time, is I just really wanted to make sure that folks, when you walk away from this session, when you walk away from these conversations today, you think about how you can go into your communities and modify programs, modify approaches to really mean more, to make a difference, in those communities. To me, at the end of the day, this means more to us, and hopefully it means more to you also. So I'll open it up a little bit, Emily, for some questions and discussion points that we had here at the end, and I know we all are on the edge of time. So.
Great. Thank you so much, Kyle and Carolyn. That was an awesome presentation. Really informative, and really value your experiences, Carolyn, especially with that heat program. That's the first time that I've heard of it myself. So we have some questions that have been coming in from the audience, and I have them right here off to the side of my screen. So I'm just going to pull those up. So the first question that we have is, Carolyn, do you feel that you have every limited or moderate income customer flagged in your territory? If not, what % do you think you have compared to the total?
We do not have all of our customers flagged. The customers that are flagged self-identify. So if we have over 280,000 customers, natural gas residential customers throughout that service territory, and we're only saying 10,800 are coded, that gives us a pretty good idea of the percentage of customers that are participating in our program. But again, as Kyle said, when we use the data and we use that lead tool, and by the way, for everybody, here's my commercial. There's a wonderful case study for the state of Kentucky that helped develop the tool, and National Grid's case study. And we're able to look at these areas where we do see we have clusters of customers that may be coded, but then to start spreading out the word about the program. And that's how we're trying to tailor our outreach. We're also mindful and respectful of the communities that we're in and how people do identify. So that's where it's very helpful, like Kyle said, being agile, having a one-stream referral that often helps us get to these customers, these hard to reach customers, working with people who qualify for SNAP, and for the people whose incomes have shifted. And for example, we had someone who came into the HEAT program who had participated in a moderate income state-funded program, and they were having some issues, and they just said, I just need somebody to advocate for me on how I can address these. And when our screeners talked to this person, they realized their income eligibility had shifted, we could take them into our program. So we do take every touch point possible. And to Kyle's point, just to make a quick commercial too, when we talk about green jobs, we're not just talking about people who install the measures. What we're talking about is the people who work in the back office, the people who work for these firms that do weatherization, for the call center representatives, and training them so that they can help us reach out at these touch points.
That's great. Thank you. We have another question. Do you, primarily Carolyn, but also Kyle, if you have any experience, do you have any feedback from your customers on the virtual assessments versus, the more traditional in-home assessments where there's an actual person in the home?
I'd be glad to
I can
talk about
just
that.
quickly.
Oh, you're
Sorry,
both
Kyle, I was
excited
just
about
gonna
it.
say-
Exactly.
We're both excited about it. I just wanted to share very quickly. The vast majority of our customers in HEAT, after we've gone live again from the Pause New York in July, we have found that almost none of our customers have opted for a virtual home energy assessment. However, we do quality control and quality assurance. We use virtual assessments for that, and it's helped us develop a pipeline for leads. And that's where we've seen it work out very well. And Kyle, if you'd care to share your experiences.
Yeah, it's been spectacular. It's not only been positive for our customers, it's really been a positive for our employees. So we've had instances where a customer 4:30 on a Friday had an issue at a house, and they were about 2 hours away from the closest technician who wanted to go home. And we're able to solve problems remotely. Within a few clicks and a pause and a hey, go get settled. Put dinner on the table for your kids and come back to me and we'll pick up the conversation and let's take a walk around your house and look at what's going on. We're actually also launching the tool, the Stream tool with a gas service appliance company, utility, a utility that rolls trucks every single day, fixing no heat issues, plumbing issues, appliances not working issues. We're utilizing the technology not just for that customer interaction, for an energy assessment. We're also using it for service issues, warranty issues. Hey, what's the next step in my program? And one contractor in a multi-tiered program, we're able to do quality assurance type activities. So the customer can get to the next step, the next part of the journey, that much quicker. So we love it. It's been working out really well. Our technicians also appreciate the opportunity to have a visual engagement with a customer before an on-site. So we're not just using it to replace on-sites, we're using it to do pre-energy education with customers, review their bills, and then when they're there, they already had that rapport with the customer. And it's like they're letting somebody who's a friend into her home during this COVID period than somebody who just knocked on the door with a utility tele. So it's lots of different ways to use it. So, and I think there's a session later in this forum, Authority Energy Forum, to go into details on that. So.
Thank you. A couple more questions have come in. This is for either of you. What do you think is the most important thing for program leaders to remember if they are trying to launch enhanced program offerings for moderate income customers, especially given the dynamic with the pandemic? I think, Kyle, the phrase that you used was some of these folks are on the razor's edge of, perhaps moving from that moderate income bracket into a low income bracket. So if there's one thing that you could say is the most important thing, what would you say?
I'd say it's a level of empathy. I think we all need to take have a customer service session. Again, remind ourselves what it's like to work with customers who are, not just low income, but those that are moderate. No one expected this. It wasn't on their horizon. Nothing went wrong. They didn't do anything wrong. It just happened. So this, low and moderate income programs will be on the tip of our tongue in our society for a while. So as long as the virus is and the pandemic is out there, the reality is we're going to deal with customers every single day that don't know how to raise their hand. So I think it's really important for us to take a step back and think about not only the houses, the communities they live in, but think about their family reality. And avoid any moment where they're uncomfortable, and working with them to understand their situation. It might be the first time they've ever not paid a utility bill or collected interest on a credit card. There's so many other things going on, so we need to take time to understand the customers.
Carolyn, did you want to take a stab at that one too, or Kyle handled it pretty well?
I think Kyle handled it very well. I think it's empathy, it's the voice of the customer. That when you design these programs, that you get the feedback from the community as to what they need. And again, too, that customer we had that was considered moderate income by state median levels, living on Long Island, we need to be a bit more porous about our qualifications. You need to allow for people to go between these sort of designations and to tailor those offerings to what you're seeing out there in the market. So it's the voice of the customer.
Excellent, thank you. So it looks like one more question. Carolyn, it sounds like you're privy to the HEAP customers. For others, do you screen W-2s or do you have an MOU with the New York State Medicaid office? There's a lot of acronyms in this question, so I'm just trying to interpret all of them. Or for example, the New York State Office of the Aging. I apologize, it looks like there's actually 4 or 5 questions wrapped up in this one question. But it looks like they're very interested just in how you screen and sort of the interactions that you have with the other agencies in the state.
Absolutely, that's understood. As an investor-owned utility, we're limited to a degree on the relationships that we have through MOUs with these agencies. They're very sensitive to the information that they gather from their clients because, for example, Office for Aging, it's not always energy related. And we have to be very careful about how we manage customer information, as Kyle alluded to, keeping it safe. But that being said, we have tremendous partnerships with the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority, and my commercial for the Low Income Forum on Energy coming up shortly. Kyle's participated in it. CLEAResult's been terrific in their engagement. That's where our partners come forward from the community. So we do see like the alphabet soup. We see OTDA, DSS, DHCR. Everybody's vocabulary expands when we go to these because when you're collecting business cards and you're meeting people and putting faces to voices, you start seeing their engagement with their customers and you start saying, okay, on common ground, where can we meet together? So, for example, if the Office for Aging on Suffolk County has someone who comes forward who has a change in their circumstances. Previously, they had been pretty self-sustaining, but now they're finding themselves, like Kyle and I were saying, it's on that razor's edge. They now need assistance from the Office for Aging, and the Office for Aging has that relationship with the Department of Social Services. So they may find a home improvement grant to help somebody who needs a ramp. And then they say to them, have you applied for the Home Energy Assistance Program through the Department of Social Services? Go to mybenefits.gov for New York State. Start logging in, start setting up this account. And by the way, did you know that the utility has a program? Now that you get your HEAP allocation, and HEAP from Department of Social Services does have an understanding because they are the LIHEAP vendor. They send that payment to National Grid, PSEG Long Island, ISEG, RG&E, any of the investor-owned utilities that accept these grants or a HEAP provider. We can tag the account and then say to this customer, additionally, you've qualified for an energy affordability program credit. And then we can work with that customer through our consumer advocates, through our community development groups, and make them aware of some more programs. And we also bring in community development groups like the United Way. So all those letters are out there, but we all manage to put it together and make it work for our customer.
That's great. And I know that you have a very diverse territory, a very dense territory. So for example, I was surprised to hear that that you even have agriculture on Long Island. I had no idea. I'm sure many of our attendees didn't know that as well. So I think that brings us to about time. I'm not seeing any more questions come in through the feed. Thank you both so much.